to Ringside Roundtable. Over to my right, the man, the myth, not really the legend, Tom. Over here, from the Hart family, we got Sean Hart.
How you doing?
Today we're going to be talking about a variety of topics. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Great, man.
Yeah, doing good.
Good?
It's a little toasty, but
A little hot.
it's a little hot, but I'm cool with that.
There's a smell of mildew here in this lovely warehouse.
It is. You know, we are shooting in a warehouse. This is where the magic happens. The real magic, not just in this ring, but the real magic happens all around us because we're in the Ringside warehouse. And this is where, God, there's got to be millions of action figures in here.
Probably close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is pretty insane. You know, I mean, it's pretty cool that you get to see the back. This is where everything happens.
If you want to rob this place,
No, don't tell them that.
you
But
could probably get the layout right now and make your plan.
they're gonna Ocean's 11 this whole joint. They're gonna come in. That's the big score. And it actually would be a big score. Give me an idea.
Let's get to our first topic.
Which is,
Sheamus injury out for 4 to 6 weeks.
oh,
Torn.
Is it 4-2-6 or 46?
46 or 4 to 6 weeks.
You're that's the difference between
Well,
a huge smile and a really tiny smile.
You know how doctors work these days,
Right,
man. You can't get a
right.
straight answer out of them.
so bring me up to speed.
4 to 6 months?
4 to
Okay,
6
our
months.
off-air producer says 4 to 6 months.
I was gonna say 4 to 6 weeks is no
not a big
big
deal.
thing. Yeah, it's like you go to Disney World, you hang out, you rehab. But 4 to 6 months.
He goes back to Ireland. That's what Sheamus has got to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a quest. It's a vision quest.
He's got to reconnect.
How did this happen, though? What exactly? Because I, believe it or not, as huge of a dork that I am not abreast of this story, believe it or not.
I can't tell you the last time I watched a Sheamus match.
Why?
So,
They're amazing.
Are they?
Yeah. He gets really red because he's got fair skin.
Right.
So you know it's real.
That's true.
I think Sheamus has a ton of energy. The children love him, but for some reason, he kind of bores me sometimes. And I don't mean to knock the guy.
No, I think you just don't like gingers. That's what I think it's all about.
No,
Oh.
it's not a ginger
I have
thing.
never eaten at a Wendy's.
I don't
Maybe
blame
it
you.
is a ginger.
That I don't blame
It
you.
is Ginger's
They
thing.
have awful coffee. We will not be having Wendy's as a sponsor anytime soon.
I would say that it's important that to remember that you don't wish anybody to get hurt ever, and under any circumstances. I would never anyway. But
So this was the labrum, okay? That's up in the shoulder, over by the I guess towards the front deltoid, and that, from what I understand, that's because it's similar to a rotator cuff. If you injure your rotator cuff. And that is, thank God, knock on wood. I've never had a rotator cuff injury, but this is a very, very painful injury. That's number one. Number two, it takes a lot of rehab. And number three, it's one of those things where it affects your range of motion, which is something that any superstar needs, is a range of motion. So obviously, he's going to be on the shelf.
He can still do the brogue kick.
He can still do the brogue kick.
His matches could be all brogue kick.
This
if
is
he
all
really
brogue
needed.
kick.
If I was his manager, that's what I would tell him.
That's all he's got. Just throws his leg out there.
Constant brogue kicks.
What does this say? I mean, we can say whatever we want. I still see him as an upper mid card guy. I don't see him as. This is just my opinion. I don't see him as a top guy, even though he is in that spot and he's gotten the push. I mean, what's the effect of this? And not only that, does this open the door for some other guys? We had Kofi return, which they don't know what the hell to do with. So I mean, it's one of those deals. Like, does this open up a spot on the roster, like an opportunity?
my answer is no, and because my answer is no because he's out 4 to 6 months, and then he comes back at the Royal Rumble, and it's like, in their eyes, a big deal. Oh, Sheamus is back, but to everyone else that isn't between the ages of 5 and 7, it's not that big of a deal, So.
Yeah, and who was he? What was he up to before the injury took place?
Nobody seems to know. That's the weirdest thing about this is
Man.
nobody seems to remember what Sheamus is doing.
The only thing I remember was the vignettes they had produced, the 1-800-FELLA, which actually wasn't a real number, which I wish they had made it a real number.
I believe it's not enough digits to be
It's
a
not.
number.
It's not enough digits. It could be 1-800-FELLA-1. I don't know. But that I remember were these vignettes that you were doing, as grammar just goes right out the thing. Wrestling fans, we're not that bright. I'm kidding. We're total intellectuals. After this, we're going to MoMA. Right, guys?
Sure.
No, we're not.
Actually, I have a Mensa meeting to hit.
There you go. So
I
we're
hang out
totally
with Noam
intelligent.
Chomsky all the time.
The whole thing is how does this affect the roster right now? He's saying no effect. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't think it has a big effect. If we can't remember who he was feuding with before this took place, the biggest Sheamus news that's happened is this injury, which I'm still saying it's 4 to 6 weeks. I have no reason to believe this. The news says 4 to 6 months, 6 weeks. I'm saying we see Sheamus again. What else are we talking about today?
Daniel Bryan's makeover.
So he didn't actually get the makeover though.
He sort of got the makeover.
He sort of got the makeover.
He sort of did.
Yeah.
He tried to have the makeover.
Right.
They put him in a suit. They buffed his face. Is that what they did to him?
I think they did.
I'm pretty upset that they made him eat meat for this makeover.
Yeah, that's a little messed up.
That's pretty messed up.
He has said before that he's not, the only reason he was ever a vegan was because of the food choices on the road for him. It wasn't so much a, then again, I guess he is a PETA supporter, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's pretty messed up, you're right.
Maybe it was fake meat.
That could be true.
Like tofurkey.
Right.
You know, they just...
It was a pretty real looking steak to me, I gotta tell you.
You never know, yeah.
Well, I mean, Daniel Bryan's makeover, obviously we've gotten a lot of heat from Vince, and he's, saying this isn't the guy. They're kind of working that angle where this isn't the guy who should represent the brand. But this is what they've thought about, like, a lot of guys, but he's really in a top spot now. I mean, this is it. This is his biggest push, and obviously the fans want it. The fans, they want the Cena Bryan match. It's really kind of like Rocky versus Apollo Creed. There's no unequivocal doubt. Cena being the Apollo Creed.
Right.
Just in case you didn't get it.
I mean, I think it's all great. I love Daniel Bryan. We all love Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I don't know if
awesome.
anybody dislikes him anywhere.
Yeah, I think he's become the Simpsons of the WWE. The kids love him, and the adults love him. Like,
They do, yeah.
They do the yes chant, but he does the subtle stuff that we like too.
Right.
I think now is the time. I also believe that you have to give a bit of fan service. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, we're gonna put a guy over because you know what, the fans want it. The fans demand it, and honestly, at this point, Bryan deserves it. And I rarely throw that around where I say a guy deserves it, but he does. He's a great hand. If you've been watching him the last few months, his matches, even though he does a lot of the same repetitive moves, he's been the best damn thing on television.
Well, everybody does. That's more the style of the company. Is everybody doing the same repetitive moves? It's just, and that. To that note, you're right. It's very consistent, and it's if you think about it, he's really never changed from Ring of Honor to now at all.
No,
when
he was the American Dragon, I remember watching the Manhattan Center, and he's still the guy hasn't aged. I think I've aged and he hasn't. The real question is, will Bryan go over at SummerSlam? Do we see this as, chime in here anytime, guys, because I want to know your opinion before I reveal my ace card up my sleeve.
Well, there's always a chance somehow pulls it out, small package, something like that. And then your favorite, Randy Orton,
and
walks to the ring very, 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 very slowly.
Very slowly.
But like a snake. He's very snake-like. He's the apex predator. And then cashes in that Money in the Bank, beats Daniel Bryan, lets him hold the title for a second.
Well,
so in turn, the same smited Christian story happens over again.
It's the Christian story all over again.
I don't know. I'm not sure how I would feel about that.
If I were
that seems like the obvious route to me.
Maybe it's a little too obvious.
To me, it's almost like him winning it's striking while the iron is hot, and everybody's not expecting it so much at this point that it would be almost refreshing for him to just win, you know? And it's like, oh, wow, he won and nothing happened. Somebody actually beat, you know, John Cena with no circumstance instead of John Cena beating somebody else with no circumstance.
But you know what? I think even if he loses the journey, like, you know what? You brought up Rocky, man. That first Rocky movie.
Rocky lost.
Rocky lost, man.
But he came close. And he went the distance. And it was about going the distance.
Yeah, I mean, there is no distance in the WWE. But he could wrestle an awesome match, almost beat John Cena, and I think the fans would love him anyway. I don't even know if he needs to win the title.
I mean, it's never been one of those things. There's plenty of guys throughout the years that never had a championship, and they were still they were always over. I mean, you know, so many guys throughout the history of the WWE, WWF. But really, what it boils down to is where they're going with the storyline, and I think that every pundit in professional wrestling has basically said what you said, that they're gonna put the championship on him. Orton's gonna walk down and he's gonna say he's gonna cash in the Money in the Bank, you know, and then it allows, as kind of a good guy, to chase the heel, to chase that championship. But the thing is, then how do you book Cena? But at this point, it really doesn't matter, because they had a great program they started with Mark Henry and Cena, and after they were done with Henry being the atypical bad guy and he had been destroyed and vanquished, he's down, you know, he's down the card again. And it kind of stinks, you know, for Mark Henry. You get like that moment. It's like Ryback had kind of his moment.
Well, it happens to everybody. Yeah. Kane, you know, you just go down the line, you probably put R-Truth, you point The Miz, you point to just about everyone, and they've all gone up to that point and then come back down.
But not everybody can stay on the top of the mountain like
John Cena can.
John Cena can.
Right.
But really, you know, do we really think R-Truth should have stayed up there for a long time? Probably not.
K-Quick, yes. R-Truth, no. No, but you've got two baby faces, and you don't normally see two good guys like that, you know. And there almost is, everybody has wanted this heel turn for Cena for God knows how long, and they've teased it. And I gotta tell you, just a real quick opinion on that. When Hogan turned heel, he'd already been in the business for 20-something years. So I feel that they exhausted every opportunity they could with Hulkamania. But things move quicker now. We're in the digital age. So you could, I mean, if they were gonna use this as the impetus for the heel turn, this is the time. I would pull the trigger on it personally.
I'm going to absolutely hope that that's not the case, because the John Cena heel turn, to me, is one of the absolute 1000% most overrated, over-talked about, overspoken things in the history of wrestling.
So you guys,
I don't know what it is about that people think that's like the solution to everything.
Well, it's not.
I know they want to see it as something different and something new, and it's like refreshing to them for something that's so stale that it's like, you know, tastes like astronaut ice cream. But it's like what are they gonna do? Like you said, for a few months, it's the digital age. You know, it'll go through and then it's gone. It's what like, is it really gonna solve that problem for people? No, it's not.
What does it mean for him to turn heel when half the audience already boos him, and he kind of plays into it some of the time?
Right.
And even in this, can we say feud? Even in this feud, Daniel Bryan is throwing out the idea that he's for the wrestling fans, and John Cena's an entertainer, and John Cena talks about this idea. Well, he doesn't address it in the same way. He's already in promo said, "What should I change up to a heelish persona?" He's called it out already. Well, he's taunting the crowd.
That promo that Daniel Bryan had was a complete kiss, love letter to the fans of professional wrestling, because it used to be a no-no about saying the W word, and that was pretty much, that got all the fanboys, all the smart marks, all the marks on his side, you know, where it was that was kind of the deal.
They were there already.
They were there already, but it was further saying this is almost like an electoral type of situation. But there's guys, I mean, you never need to turn Superman evil. You don't. You can keep Superman a good guy. You know, even as he's wearing this dopey shirt, you can keep Captain America a good guy. There's no reason that Captain America has to wake up and be like, God, I hate this country. You know, so I mean, if you want to keep someone in that role, that's fine. As far as the heel turn, I'm just saying story-wise logic, where it's kind of like you've got this underdog, and this is the thing that causes him to snap. You know?
It's interesting.
I mean, that's all I got.
The beauty of it all, it can go any direction. You've got to tune in on Monday night to make sure.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you'll never see what happens.
Yeah, because they could write this anyway. This could go in a lot of different directions.
I say Cena turns heel, a month later, go back to being a face. I mean, that's what we want to see. Constant face and heel turns from John Cena.
That would be
constant face and heel turns from everybody.
Everybody.
Just go back and forth.
Who knows?
What difference does it make? It's just got to be. It's all got to be just this kind of gray area that just is constantly running out of our noses.
Also, Daniel Bryan's too short.
Speaking of that, the McMahons that are in control of everything is Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Right there. So we also have his daughter Stephanie, who has come to the forefront, and Triple H, the son-in-law, torn between his super tight relationship with his father-in-law and his lovely wife. So guess what I think about all this?
What?
It's nothing that I want to sit through at all. I don't know where that came from, that they're like, oh, we should be back on TV right now. I was fine without the McMahons every week. I went through it when I was 13 for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Do they have to be there? Does anybody? My question is, does anybody care about what they're arguing about, including the characters on the show? Because I don't think they do.
There were some rumors going around on this new thing came out last week, the internet, and they were talking about, do we really need? Because what was it? WrestleMania 2000. Was the one
a McMahon in
every corner, and that's one of my favorite WrestleManias.
Yeah. But the thing is that I've even heard through the grapevine that even the McMahons are kind of leery about being on television. I mean, even this week.
Really?
Who's forcing them to be on
Nobody's
TV?
The only reason they're on TV is because they're inserting themselves.
It's me. I pull the strings. I put the...
You, Jerry! It's been you all along.
There's not a booker. It's just voodoo. I just use voodoo, and they do what I say. In all honesty, though, it's just one of those things where I don't think, like you said, anybody's really clamoring for this storyline. Even if you watched Raw this week, you saw that Triple H showed up, got the biggest pop of the night, and it was a taped segment. It was a pre-taped segment that just came over. But that was another thing that I wanted to bring back with Cena, was that he's not even it's not even cheers or boos. I think the audience has like an apathetic reaction. And I feel the reason I'm bringing this up is because I feel there's almost an apathetic reaction to this storyline. You know, what is she, 36, 37 years old, and she has to answer to her father? I would like to see, maybe Stephanie slap the taste out of Vince's mouth and be like, you know what? You're old news. We're here. We're running this. So this is almost like the McMahon-Helmsley era version 2.0.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's, for me, not interesting enough, unfortunately.
Are we supposed to like her?
That's the thing. You used to hate this family for a reason, and with good reason.
What they represented.
What they represented, what it was about back then. Everything that they were. One of the most effective things for me in wrestling my entire life was Shane beating X-Pac for the European Championship.
Yeah.
X-Pac was my favorite, and there was nothing about him that was winning. Everybody was helping Shane. Everybody was just ruining this.
Yeah.
There was no way he was going to keep that, and I hated them for it.
Yeah.
I hated every time Shane shows up when he was wrestling like 3-4 years ago. I was just like, just go away. I don't ever want to see you again. You ruined my life. And that means that they're good at what they are.
Yeah, but now when I see them, like, you're ruining my TV viewing experience right now.
Oh.
Now I'm just bored with them.
Yeah,
Are you
you're right.
enjoying it?
I used to dig Shane, and the reason I dig Shane is because he used to take some of the craziest bumps, like death drops. I mean, he was.
Sure. The like Steve Blackman throwing him off the Tron in the
I love
hardcore
that
match. It's great.
I love
But
that.
That was 13 years ago. You know, it's like luckily he's seemed to make his way out of this whole situation, but
well, for now.
Well,
you know, because you might want to go out and seek your fortune and your destiny, disassociate yourself a little bit from the product, and then maybe come back when
the prodigal son returns.
Well, we can only hope. I mean, Christ, there were so many talks about having Shane working over at UFC, but that was obviously nothing more than just idle chatter.
Right.
So, McMahon, I think we can all agree on this. We really don't need to see any more McMahon family drama.
We can agree on it, but
those toys
nothing we say will ever change it.
Oh, they are. This was one of the pieces that I presented last week was the COO Triple H. It's very formal. That's not Men's Warehouse.
I would take him to dinner.
I would take him to dinner. I'd ask him, be like, Triple, what would you like? You know, I don't think there's any problem with that.
A little steak in his mouth. What else are we talking about before I get on to my date with Triple H?
Oh, God. Well, before your date with Triple H, probably one of the hottest angles right now, and one of my favorite promos of the week was the Brock Heyman Punk deal. This was great.
Sure.
This was great. You want to chime in about this?
I love everything to do with this angle. This one's fantastic. I love Brock Lesnar telling Paul Heyman, say something stupid, Paul.
That was great. That was probably my favorite line.
Where did that come from?
No, you know what the thing is I think that Brock knows how to cut a promo better than anybody else, but they've kept him the silent monster. When he came in back from the UFC, he was very dominant. He obviously, because of his health problems, he had taken the loss. It is what it is, but they presented him as, the here comes the pain Brock Lesnar. And now, I think as time is going, they're seeing what really works with Brock, and he's just such a great monster and a great heel.
He's frightening.
He is. The guy is, he really is. Like, if you had, I'd be like, you know what, I'm out. I'm not fighting this guy. What are your thoughts on this whole angle that they're doing right now?
Unfortunately, I don't see it as cerebrally as you guys do.
Not into it.
I'm not. I can, in my mind, CM Punk can only talk to himself so many weeks in a row before it's just like, okay, here we go. And Paul Heyman's one thing, but
always entertaining.
Brock, not being around is kind of, it doesn't seem necessary to me. I feel like he could be Punk could be putting the same kind of effort out with anybody else, and sure their buy rates kicked up or whatever reason they've rehired Brock Lesnar, but
he's in.
Is it really that? Is it pulling in that many outside people to see CM Punk face off with Brock Lesnar right now?
I have no idea, but I know that
I don't think any of us do. This is just like Mark perspective, but it's like.
I love Lesnar. I absolutely love Brock Lesnar because I've always been a fan of guys like the Warlord, just big, muscular.
You love the Warlord.
I love the Warlord.
I still love the Warlord.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've always liked the big, muscle-bound guys that you've got no shot. Like, if you saw him in the street, you're like, I am not fighting this guy. I'm just gonna go home and cry or crawl into
his name was the Warlord, which I've always found to be one of the funniest things about him. He was the Lord of War. That's what he came to WWF at the time to do, is show us how he was the Lord of War.
And sadly enough, Raw is war.
Raw is war.
Spelled
backwards. He was there at the wrong time.
He really was. I've always been a fan of the big ones, the big guys, because maybe some people can say, oh, well, the work rate isn't that great. But I always think there's a place for a big, muscle-bound, genetic freak.
Yeah.
And I love Brock. I think Brock is great. I think he's smarter than anybody that we know. But can I at least say this about this angle? They've allowed this angle to properly marinate. They've allowed it to kind of come full circle. There was the slow turn against Paul Heyman. This is good booking because it reminds me of booking back in the day. And this is not me looking through the rose-colored glasses saying, well, everything was better when I was a kid, because I don't buy into that perspective. I think you have to look at the current product and you have to say, what are they doing right? And I think this is one of the angles that they've done right. As far as limited interaction, I understand it because they got Brock for only so many dates. They did have a physical altercation, which back in the day, Bruno Sammartino would not have a physical interaction with the opponent. You know, they would hold off. Even during, you know, the 80s, going 90s, they held off when that physical interaction happened.
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm loving this angle.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's David and Goliath. This is David and Goliath, 2013. Not only that...
is CM Punk really a David at this point, though? After all he's done?
Physically, he's kind of a David.
Sure, but, you know, physically... We've seen, you know, Zach Gowen pull some
That's true.
You know
crazy
what
wins
angle,
off, you know?
You know what this angle needs?
What's that?
The Warlord.
Any angle needs the Warlord.
The Warlord needs to be involved here.
I just think you might actually get a damn good match out of this because
Sure.
Punk, you know, he trains over with the Gracies, BJJ. Obviously, Brock was an All-American wrestler. So I think that you might see some actually, not just a spot fest, but some real actual wrestling.
That's not a bad thought. I could see them integrating the MMA style into their match with each other.
And it wouldn't,
that's
you know,
interesting.
I think that would add a little flavor, a little something different, and also a little realism of how this would go down. Because the whole thing was when Hoist Gracie had started doing all the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it was really about, because he was a small, thin man. So this is a perfect example where you've got CM Punk going up against a larger guy, and usually those are my favorite matches.
Right.
Not saying that he's a small guy; he's still a big dude. But Brock Lesnar's he's a freak of nature.
What if we had a fight, you and I? Like, would that be the equivalent?
I think it would. Are
you taking this seriously?
I'm taking it very seriously.
Okay. Now I'm scared.
You should be. You know, I am taking it very seriously because you can never underestimate your opponent.
True.
That in life, don't ever, because you're talking to that good-looking woman, you're talking to that kid. The next thing they do, they pull out a pistol.
Sure.
And then all
take it off.
You know, Christian.
All right. So, and here's what I've been enjoying the most.
Okay.
Definitely this past Friday on Smackdown. I know you may or may not watch Smackdown. I don't know if everybody here does.
I'm a huge nerd.
So you do watch Smackdown?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's, you know, it's the thing. The thing is, like, people watch Raw and they may not watch SmackDown. You know.
I got Hulu Plus now, and they got NXT. They got everything.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anybody that missed it, it's a shame because one of the top 3 matches of the year actually happened Friday night on SmackDown. Yeah.
It was a damn good match.
Yes, it was.
I can't front on that.
I gotta go back and watch it. I am one of those.
This was Christian versus Rob Van Dam versus Randy Orton in a triple threat for the #1 contenders match. For the World Heavyweight Championship, or the right to face, you know, Alberto at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So, how is that going to turn out? I'm going to ask you guys first because I want to know. Everybody knows what I think. Let's hear it.
I don't think he's gonna win. Straight up, your boy Christian.
All right, well, get out of here.
All right, man.
Whoa, guys! Look, let me be the impartial judge here. If there is a time, look. We all know this is probably going to be RVD's last run, okay? I mean, I'd rather go on top, but going back to Christian, this is looking like kind of the end of the road before he becomes a road agent or a booker, and I think this is the time.
So how do you measure that about somebody? I don't mean to interrupt you, but how do you measure that this is his? Everybody seems to say this about him, and I never understood why, because I don't see the difference between his matches now and, say, like, 5 years ago, maybe a little bit of physicality change. But to me, he's been exactly the same the entire time.
How old is he? I mean, is that...
He's like 34, you know, I don't know, 35. And people tend to want to, like,
it's not that old.
You know, take these guys behind the barn and shoot them in the head and move on to, like, Damian Sandow or whoever. And it's like, does he, even more so than somebody like Hulk Hogan, does he need to be, like, you know, put down so quickly? I don't get it. I've never understood it.
Sure.
You're at a crossroads, and this is the time. If you're good at putting the championship on him, you got to pull the trigger on this one, because I mean, come on. Christian is one of those guys, one of the best workers in the business. That's number one. Okay, the guy, he could have a match with a broomstick. He is that damn good. Okay. I think he got overshadowed when he was in the tag team with Edge. I think that kind of happened for a while. No matter where he's been, he's always done great work, whether it's TNA or whether it's WWE. The reality of it is they've put him in this slot where it seems like, let's get the strap on this guy. Let's get that championship around his waist. Because there might not be, I mean, you got to understand, physically, he's not, believe me, he's in better shape than a lot of the other guys, But the point that we're at with Christian, if you're gonna put the championship on him, you got to pull the trigger on it.
Can I ask you a question though? Like, in general, why put the championship on anyone, right? There's probably several reasons.
Okay.
Like, reward for good work, I guess, because you think it could bring in viewership and ratings. Maybe just because you think they can have good matches. Would putting the championship on Christian bring in people necessarily?
I don't think that's what it's about. I think what it is it's
what's the urgency, I guess, is my question.
This many years into his career, and he is in a main event spot. We could say that about a lot of people, but Christian has been one of those kind of guys. He's not like a very polarizing superstar where there's people who are like, I hate Christian, and there's people who love Christian. You either love Christian or you're just so-so. He's one of those guys, he's Canadian, and you can't hate anybody Canadian. We love Canadians. Yeah. They're so friendly and nice.
Sure.
You're only saying that because there's a Hart here.
Maybe.
Perhaps I'm related to them. You guys don't know, but my real last name is Hart.
H-A-R-T.
So what do you think? Do you think he deserves a strap? Of course you do.
Of course I think it. Do I think it's going to happen?
No.
I don't. I don't think he's going to win. Everybody seems to, from what I've been reading, to think he's going to win. And I don't think so. He's been on way too good of like a tear. He's just won everything that he's been, he's won every match. He pinned Randy Orton, which he couldn't do an entire summer, in 2011.
I love
and he did it with a roll-up. It's like, wow, that's it made Orton look, silly. Not, silly in the wrong way, but it's just like, wow, you beat him just like that.
Schoolboy roll-up
right.
kind of is ridiculous.
Because he's on the winning streak, you're thinking?
Because he's on the winning streak, I don't think I don't see it carrying through for that. Or I could see history repeating itself with Damien Sandow coming out and taking away from him what, he worked so hard for, and then loses so quickly, just like that.
And then that puts Christian in...
puts him back to what they're...
Where he's chasing the title with Sandow.
Kind of.
And let me tell you something. Sandow is... that guy can cut a damn promo. I mean, there's a lot of people... I found him... At first, I wasn't too high on him. And even Cody Rhodes has improved as far as cutting promos. Like, the whole deal where they had, the briefcase, the gimmick... where the briefcase comes out and it's waterlogged in the Gulf of Mexico. I thought that was real. Yeah, I thought it was funny. I think 2 weeks ago I thought the water would have dried in 2 weeks, but whatever.
As long as it doesn't happen on TV, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Things don't happen in the week between. I want to ask you guys about the vicious beating that his opponent at SummerSlam gave to Ricardo Rodriguez.
Whoa.
That was, I feel bad for that poor guy.
Yeah, and you know what the thing was Ricardo Rodriguez was actually, he was still in training at that point. He had not gotten called up. And they were actually going to use an actor as his voice announcer for Alberto Del Rio. So he got that at the last minute, and Lord Almighty, they throw him, after he lost that match the other night with Rob Van Dam, he threw Ricardo a beating.
Why did they have to do that?
Because he's a bad guy.
Bad guys
that was my issue with it too. It was like
there's no inner logic.
Tenzai, no, it's not an inner logic thing. Like Tenzai threw around Sakamoto, and it was like, wow, he really hates that guy, and he's really for no reason. That's here this entire time, the entire time Del Rio's been around.
Yeah.
He's managed to, unless I'm wrong on this, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm not. He's managed to go his entire WWE career without laying a finger on Ricardo Rodriguez.
Or mentioning Suge Knight. No, I'm kidding. That's Eminem.
So to me, it's like suddenly, he's different because despite the fact that he's a jerk or whatever, he still keeps this kind of weird integrity with his manager and his best friend. So did I.
They have a good relationship.
It's enjoyable. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's a jerk just like everybody else is a jerk that... I beat up my manager because I'm pissed. It's like, oh, great. Well, everybody does that. It kind of set him apart, and now it makes him even less unique than he already was.
As far as Rodriguez is concerned, for somebody who came in basically just to fill in for an actor, he's had a damn good 3-year run. He milked the most out of this mileage. Perhaps they're looking to expand because, Ricardo Rodriguez, he can wrestle.
Right. He can still wrestle like this, though. I just don't... To me, I don't understand why these things can't just go on forever. I don't know what it is about that they have to use it for like a quick, cheap angle to, you know, give Del Rio some jerk advancement as if he needs it. He could have gone back and like tossed, you know, a bucket full of puppies into the river or something, and people would have been even angrier at that than they would have at him like beating up his friend.
Well, if you remember the old school fans, it's kind of one of those deals with like $1 Million Man and Virgil. And it's like, I think it would obviously have been controversial, but then again, they've gotten away with everything. I couldn't imagine $1 Million Man just finally having it with Virgil and just, you know, really throwing him a beating. So it was kind of unfortunate. I felt bad here. Like, I felt bad for Ricardo Rodriguez.
I did feel bad for him. He's a very likable person. He's got a little charisma to him. I didn't like to see that happen to him.
It's a sad state of affairs.
It is really a sad situation. But you know what? They make up, and then in a month they pretend like this never happened. So
I hope it goes that way.
Yeah, it's either that or, I mean, he starts managing other people or ring announcing other people. I don't know what they're gonna do.
I like that.
That could be good.
Ring announcer for hire, Ricardo Rodriguez.
And he finds some kind of monster to go and get the head.
You know who that monster would be?
Sin Cara.
The Warlord.
The Warlord.
The Warlord.
You know, all roads lead to the Warlord. That's what we've learned today, folks, here at Ringside.
Sin Cara. Oh, sure. Sorry, I'm obsessed with the Warlord.
It's okay, man. You know,
I can't help it.
Warlord's a cool dude.
He is a cool dude.
Not as cool as the Goon, but cool. No way. The Warlord's way cooler than the Goon.
Do we have anything else to talk about, gentlemen?
Believe it or not, other than, no, we don't. Ringside Collectibles, all the toys, all the fancy stuff.